Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host. Joining me, as always, MAGA Jesse in the chair to my left. Appropriately, the chair to my left.
I don't know what's appropriate about that, but yeah, we got a lot of good stuff and a lot of truth to expose today, so excited to get into it.
Yeah, we'll get bumped on YouTube almost for sure on this one. So we're going to cut the YouTube channel within like 10 minutes. We'll get to that. Bridget, are we supposed to? No, we don't. We post that later. We'll post the Rumble link later. Also joining me because of the topic, the new revelations about what came out on the COVID vaccine, is health freedom expert. That's what I just call you nowadays, health freedom expert, unemployed guy, because you quit your job in the hospital because they were trying to mandate the vaccine on you. And this is Mark Bishofsky. So welcome back to the show, Mark.
Always a pleasure to be here, and this is right in my wheelhouse today, talking about this subject. So can't wait to get into it and make the truth hurt.
And you do, and you do a show also with us called The Truth Expedition, where you investigate many different things, and of course, vaccines are one of them. I'm sure YouTube's got a signal. Oh, Mark's on the show.
Can you say that word even? Can you even say the V word?
The carrot, the Pfizer carrot. That's what we're going to talk about.
The juice.
No, that's the nice thing about Rumble is they are for free speech. So we'll probably stay up on Rumble. We'll get rid of YouTube eventually, but if you're watching on YouTube, stay with us for a little bit. Reading your comments, posting in the comment section is Bridget. Let us know where you're watching. Bridget coming back from Kansas, short trip.
Literally just 20 minutes ago.
Did you really get back? You came right back into town and came to see us?
Yeah.
Wow, impressive.
I got up at 4 and drove here.
There you go. Well, let us know where you are watching from. We appreciate see Tucker already comment in the section. We love you, Tucker. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. Not Tucker Carlson, the other Tucker. I'm sure we'll hear from Senator Carla Nelson today on the show, too. Running the dials over there, the thankless job, Dawson. Thank you very much, Dawson. Look at that haircut. So rad. He got everything he wanted this morning. We got to do our morning sync meeting outdoors in the sun. So he's on cloud 9 right now. Until an hour into the podcast where he's like, I'm hungry.
He's silent too right now.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into this thing. Joe Rogan had another interesting guest. Now, Joe Rogan, I've been a fan for, of his podcast for like a decade, but him much longer because I'm a big UFC fan. And he's got a good mix. It started with comedians, and there's some good comedians. I love listening to the comedian ones. Listening, by the way, they're both. It's still a podcast, but really you can watch them on Spotify. And then he got really, really controversial in 2020 because he dared to go against the narrative. And I thank God, because it's someone that I listen to all the time. I hope they think the same way that I think. We fought at Action for Liberty against these lockdowns, all the mandates, all that kind of stuff. And I want to see some of these big voices out there that I love and listen to share that viewpoint, right? I was thinking about this. I like Jordan Peterson a lot, and he was like absent in 2020. He was like on hiatus. I think he had some medical thing, and then he got back into the scene, and eventually you start learning, he was very much against this stuff too. And I was like, that's good. You want these talking heads, these people that are influential, at least in terms of media, for you to be on the same side. Joe took huge risks, especially when it came to the vaccine, having guys like Peter McCullough and Pierre Corey, Dr. Malone, exactly. And then, of course, we all know this in the last half year, somewhere in that sense. And I think, Mark, it's a lot because of the election. The vaccine push kind of dwindled away. I mean,
and it's unfortunate. Like, I get upset all the time. I mean, when I first started this as an activist, I had, there are hundreds of people who, as soon as they were granted their religious exemption, they kind of left the movement. And my message is, you can't do that. This is not done. These people cannot be given indemnity. They have to be held accountable. This is going to happen again. They can't get away with what they did. And so shame on those folks who got their way and left the movement.
And thank God for alternative media. And we're going to get into it, like how the media lied and manipulated. And speaking of which, on Tuesday, we got Liz Collin in studio. She's going to be talking about her new book, which is about the lying media. We actually got a giveaway. Liz Collin's going to sign a book. So go to actionforliberty.com, or actually, Bridget, post in all the links on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, a link to this. So you got to go up, sign up, and you got to make sure you're following us on Rumble, but you can actually win a signed book by Liz Collin I think we'll give away next Tuesday during the show with her. So next Tuesday, 1 o'clock, Liz Collin in studio to talk about that.
It's an awesome book too. If you've not read They're Lying, you have to read it. It's you won't put it down. It's so relevant, especially if you're in Minnesota. The lies that they spread it's unbelievable. It's a fantastic book. I have a lot of respect for Liz for writing that.
Yeah, and one of the few journalists that actually is willing to go talk to vaccine injured people, which we've obviously had on the show before. So I would imagine we haven't been banned yet from YouTube for saying what we've said.
I think we're good.
We're
Not
going to
yet,
do
I
it
think we're live.
probably 5 minutes. We'll get rid of the YouTube link because, my God, we're going to get into it. So
Truth.
Joe Rogan came back to the topic, that he got so scrutinized for, right? And we all remember this. CNN and all those talking heads had Joe Rogan on because they said he was taking horse paste, right?
Horse dewormer, yeah.
Horse dewormer,
and
yeah.
who was the CNN doctor? What was his name?
Sanjay
Sanjay Gupta.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
I want to
he
make
had him
sure
on too,
he had
yeah.
him on too, right? And
Schooled him.
He schooled him, and everyone saw that clip where Joe Rogan said, "You guys were lying about me, saying I took horse dewormer," and then. Of course, that guy has to go on, apologize to Don Lemon on CNN to keep his job. But yeah, Joe Rogan, he's taken an extreme risk to, take this stand. And, I remember back when, the vaccines were first being rolled out and everything, Joe Rogan was even considering taking it. He said that at a UFC event, it was being offered, but he was unable to make it. And then he ends up thinking, well, I'm glad that happened because he made the choice for himself, and that's how all of these things should be. Let us make our own medical decisions.
Yeah, Rogan's huge. After he came out and said he did the horse paste, it was the next day MSNBC and the shill Rachel Maddow ran and it actually Rolling Stone, a bunch of magazines ran this story about how there was a hospital, I think in Alabama, that was backed up because of all the people taking too much.
That was a lie. Yeah, it was
horse paste. It was a total lie.
Total lie.
So it was absolutely 100% fabricated lie that the mainstream media pushed, and
Right.
it was totally exposed, but they didn't retract.
Right.
They just tell these lies and let them percolate.
Yeah, that's a great point. And by the way, it's funny, catch you on something. You said when he said he took the horse paste, and he didn't say that. He said he took ivermectin.
Well,
and
right,
that's
but
what
that's
they
what
said
they
about
that's
him.
what
I
they
know.
try to say. That
I
they
know.
try to.
It's so
this is
crazy.
Can you even say the IV word?
Ivermectin.
It's a damn Nobel Prize winning medication that has
Yeah.
proven its safety for decades and decades and decades.
It might have had
it's
utility.
inexpensive.
It might have utility in the Omicron early versions. I don't know if it does now, but certainly it's not
And
dangerous.
I've never heard of negative side effects from it either. I've never heard of
Right.
anyone having problems from taking the medication. And, maybe it's not an end-all, be-all, cure-all, but, it seemed to have helped some people.
But you know what does have a lot of side effects is this vaccine, which we're going to get into, and we'll show you what Dr. Aseem says. Mm-hmm. So you know what, Mark? This is an interesting point. 3 things the media did in the last couple of years that I just feel like are unforgivable. And by the way, I was already getting rid of legacy media. Fox News was the last stand. It's certainly Tucker Carlson was the last stand for me. At this point, what am I going to consume in legacy media? Nothing. Maybe I'll turn on the 6 o'clock news because of tornadoes in the area, right? So, number one, the infamous MAGA hat wearing kid, Nick, what was his name? Nick
Sandman.
Sandman?
Sandman, yeah.
Sandman, yes. Outside of I think it was Lincoln Memorial. And they said that this is like, he was racist and all that kind of stuff because this Indian drummer came up to him, but they didn't tell the narrative.
Because
They
he
just
smiled.
they
Because he sat there
completely lied.
smirking.
Completely lied about the story. He's actually won a lawsuit against them. That was number one. That was hit one. That's strike one. Number 2, the freaking Kyle Rittenhouse thing. If you just listen to the media, Kyle Rittenhouse was the worst person ever. Crossed state lines with a firearm, illegal firearm, shot people in cold blood, black people, right? Basically, they didn't want to talk about the race that he only shot 2 white kids in self-defense. Was cleared by a jury. That one was unforgivable. And, by the way, Joe Biden himself saying he's a white supremacist with no evidence to support that. Mm-hmm. And then number 3, the final straw, if there was one, was their lie about Joe Rogan. It's like, that is just, I see what you guys are doing here. Now, there's so many other lies we could go into forever, but it's like, those are some pretty big ones. Character assassinations at the lame legacy media. And luckily, all those guys are doing well. So it's like, you didn't win. Legacy media, they're too stupid. They don't realize they're not winning.
Right.
So he brings Dr. Aseem Malhotra on. I hope I'm saying that correct.
Aseem Malhotra.
Malhotra, who's a British doctor, cardiologist, pretty renowned, who wasn't really necessarily against the vaccine. Let's listen to this first clip here, talking about actually taking the vaccine.
Do you want me taking?
Clip 1. What are you looking for?
Do you want me to take us off of YouTube really quick, or do you want this?
Yeah. All right. Great catch, Dawson. Do you want to post the link, Rumble? So if you're watching on YouTube right now, do we have an audience on YouTube?
6.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, Mark is like, how many people get on YouTube? I'm like, we might get 10 people live nowadays because we've done a very good job. And thank you, a lot of you that have just gravitated over to Rumble, probably because you've known that they're just silencing us. But we get a couple hundred people after the fact that still watch on YouTube. So if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, not live, Bridget right now is posting the link in the stream so you can go find us on Rumble. If you don't find that, go to rumble.com, and in the search menu, just type in The Truth Hurts. You'll find our show, and you can find this one in particular. So we're going to go off. Great catch, Dawson. We're going to go off on YouTube, and it's up there right now.
Yeah,
right? Okay,
yeah, we're good.
So we're off of YouTube. And let's go ahead and play this first clip with Dr. Aseem admitting that he took the jab.
High risk. I never expect, even then, like friends were calling me and younger people said, no, you don't need to take it. You're under 50, you're fit and healthy. No. Even at that time. But this is just for high risk people. So I took it. I swallowed the pill. And then, yeah, I mean, things changed very dramatically within a few months.
Did you have any adverse side effects?
I did. And again, I didn't fully appreciate it at the time, but now I know the mechanism of harm. It makes sense. So I'm very much into my fitness, Joe. I've been like, I captain sports teams at school and university. I'm an obsessive exerciser, like every day. I don't feel good if I haven't gone to the gym and done something, almost every day. I started noticing within a few weeks that my energy level started to get depleted quite significantly. My sleep was disturbed. And then I went into clinical depression. I was diagnosed with clinical depression. Didn't take any pills. It was probably mild to moderate over a few months.
So when you say diagnosed with clinical depression, what's the parameters? Like, how is that defined?
Yeah, so clinical depression, you usually have to have a number of symptoms that are persistent for at least 2 weeks. So these are things like something called early morning awakening, low mood, lack of energy, negative thoughts for the future. There's lots of different criteria. And one of my family friends actually is a psychiatrist. And I spoke to him about it, and he said, yeah, this is depression. So yeah, but the one thing I noticed more than anything else is my energy levels were I couldn't, like, I'm a very active, energetic guy, and I just couldn't leave the house. I couldn't leave the couch.
Yeah, so Mark, now
Depleted.
we've talked to people that are vaccine injured. That seems to be a common thing, not so much the depression. Of course, the depression could be caused by other symptoms they're having, but the lack of energy that you see from these vaccine injured people.
Yeah, and it's a neurologic damage that I don't think they can really put their finger on on what's causing it. But yeah, and depression is actually now is coming to light that that's actually been a pretty common side effect too.
Right. Yeah, and that's so tough because there's so many other factors that could be out there that would be causing it. So why would they attribute to a vaccine right away? But here's the doctor very well's research that thinks this is unusual, and the variable here would be the vaccine that he received. So what I liked about it, and we're going to get to some data that he brings up, which I think is just the damning thing. And I hadn't seen this, but it's British government figures too that show it. But he talks about how the vaccine works and why it's bad, about how it gets down into even the ovaries and testes. So let's play this clip here.
And what do you think, you believe is a side effect of the vaccine, but what's the mechanism?
Well, we know now one of the problems of the vaccine is that the spike protein, and there's different theories around this, from the vaccine that's injected into the arm, gets distributed throughout the body and can be there for up to 4 months. And what happens is it causes either direct, and there's published data on this, direct toxic effect to the tissues or an autoimmune reaction. So we're talking about the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the liver, the ovaries, and the testes. And that's probably the mechanism of action. And in fact, this is not, interestingly, one of the side effects from a World Health Organization endorsed list, which I reference in my peer-reviewed paper, which we'll talk about later, actually puts in there psychosis as one of the side effects of the vaccine. And there are case reports in people who went psychotic actually because of it. So
A significant number.
Well, that explains Dr. Fauci. He just went psychotic after getting his vaccine.
He didn't take that.
Do you think that?
I
You don't
don't
think
think
so?
Yeah, that's a conspiracy. Is like
Huh.
all of it's a show. They showed about Biden, and he's like on set, at the White House, which they definitely have sets, for their media stuff. But it's like, you do kind of wonder. What do you guys think at home, by the way? I'm kind of curious. Do you think these people, when they're rolling up the sleeve, they're actually getting the vaccine?
I'd have to say no. I mean, there's no way of proving it, but I would, if I had to bet, I would say no. I mean, they knew it hadn't been studied. That's a huge risk. I mean, I don't believe.
So do you
Fauci
think
took
they're
it.
all? I mean, Fauci, to me, Fauci would be the one, right? Like he would know. But like, I feel like a lot of these dumbasses, these politicians, they just like remember Tim Pawlenty and Tim Walz did these joint. Let's get our shot together. I think they did.
Oh,
two
I
or
bet
three
they
these
did.
days.
But
Yeah.
they're,
Yeah, I'm thinking like they're just
oblivious
idiots.
to it.
They're like, oh, And I also think the interesting thing, we talked about this on the phone, is the large amount of like the doctors out there, right? I mean, I don't know a lot of doctors that didn't get the vaccine. I know a lot of nurses that didn't get it. I don't know a lot of doctors that didn't get it. The way I look at that, Mark, is I think because they just so much trust the institutions because they've been taught from the institutions from the get-go that they just bought into it. And the research really wasn't readily available at the time.
Yeah, and talk about trust the science. I mean, they've got, many years of indoctrination. They're not taught how to read these studies or anything. It's just trust what's coming out of, really what was coming out of the media is what they were trusting. Not even the medical, NIH. It's, yeah.
That's okay. So that's
Yeah,
We got to
I've
go to clip.
Yeah, we have.
3.
But I've seen, like you're saying, a lot of medical professionals, they got lazy. They didn't want to do the research, so they they didn't want to stand out. They didn't want to be the one person to stand and say,
Well, yeah, they wouldn't. There's a hydroxychloroquine. There was a huge study that came out of the Lancet early on in 2020 showing how it was toxic and didn't work. But that was another one that they completely had to retract. Completely. It was totally bogus. Absolutely a lie. And I showed that to the doctors I was working with, and they just go deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
I laid it down on the desk in the doctor's lounge, and they won't accept it.
Right. Yeah, it seemed as if they didn't even want to have the debate, So it's interesting. I was also thinking, because he was talking about the depression there, do we think that John Fetterman's depression is the cause of the COVID vaccine? All of a sudden it came out of nowhere. I'm sure he's dealing with other things as
Only
well. But
Meg and
I
Jesse
mean,
would
he
posit that theory.
definitely got the vaccine. He loved getting them. So I don't know. Maybe that's the reason for John
I know, he's a
Fetterman's
high risk category.
tough
yeah.
times. Yeah.
Could be.
What do you got here, Bridget?
People in the comments are saying. So let's see. Carla says no, it was for show.
Who's that? Carla who?
The non-senator Carla.
The
Nelson.
Patriot Carla.
Patriot
Nelson.
Carla Nelson. Yep. Dave Kalush says no way for show. Tucker says placenta, and then corrects it later. Says. Or whatever the hell the fake stuff is called. And then Roxy
Placebo.
corrected him and said placebo.
Let's see.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing though is they take the placenta of women who just gave birth, and they will mix it into a pill. You guys know about this, right?
Yeah, it's
No.
I heard a little bit
You
about
totally know about this, Mark. You're like one of those,
Woo-woo.
yeah, woo-woo,
Apricot seeds.
Yeah, apricot seeds. He brought apricot seeds to the studio the other day. It's gonna cure all of her health. You've never heard of that, women? You've heard of this? Bridget,
I've heard of it. I think
yeah.
it's gross.
Well, of course
First-
it's gross, but
Some people think it's super healthy and good for you.
but I would imagine the overlap of the people that do that with their placenta, make it in pills, and not taking the vaccine are probably it's like a nice correlation. So hey, you're my people.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Bad Hat Harry says the Lancet has completely discredited themselves. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I want to say I've read some things, and I can't think of the top of my head, but yes, a lot of journals have, and a lot of peer-reviewed studies. There's an infamous case. Joe Rogan had these guys on his podcast a couple years ago about making these fake studies and then publishing them, and they got published in peer-reviewed academic journals.
Wow.
It's a very fascinating thing. Something like the study of gay dogs at dog parks or something like that.
Oh, boy.
Like over the top, it would sound just crazy, and they got published, and they even got an award in one case. I
Wow.
wish I had that episode at the top of my head because it's so worth listening to. So speaking of taking cues from the media, let's play clip 3 here. So that he gets retribution for speaking out against the vaccine. Now, he was initially a guy that took the vaccine, then speaks out against as data comes in. So let's listen to this.
So I get to the States around end of November 2021, and the first thing that happens is I get an email from a very prestigious medical body I'm associated with. I won't name them. And they say, Dr. Malhotra, we've received a number of anonymous complaints from doctors that you are spreading anti-vax disinformation. Purely upon that interview on GB News where I said there's a signal, we need to look into it. That's all I did. So I was like, Jesus, really? And it was obviously stressful. I had to respond, and it took a month, and they left me with a warning at that point. But I realized something else was going on here. So I called up the chair of the BMA. His name's Chand Nagpal. And I said, Chand, I need to talk to you. And he listened for 2 hours. I talked him through every bit of data that I'd come across and things about the vaccine. He said, Aseem, he said, I'll be honest with you. He said, nobody I've spoken to in health policy, my colleagues, appears to have critically appraised the evidence as well as you have. Most of them are getting their information on the benefits and harms of the vaccine from the BBC.
We're not shocked by that.
No, I saw that at work when I was working in a COVID unit. A lot of what these doctors were saying was coming straight from the media. I mean, they were just taking their advice from the media.
The way I looked at this pandemic and the rollout of the vaccine is you need to corrupt the institutions. There's like, is this a conspiracy? No, Walls isn't in on it, per se. It's not a conspiracy to destroy America and Minnesota in particular. But it's not a big conspiracy. It's not like Fauci's behind the closed doors with all the governors and all these guys in a room, all orchestrating this big con against us. What's happening is you just need to corrupt institutions. And that's where RFK's book's really interesting, The True Anthony Fauci. To learn what that guy is in charge of and how funding and grants go through him. And he's been in this position for, decades, since the 80s, and blew up the AIDS crisis. It's like, that's all you got to do is corrupt the institutions. Well, so the scientific community, the big institution, is what Anthony Fauci oversaw. And the political institution's easy to corrupt because they and their buddies in the mainstream corporate media are beholden to pharmaceutical companies. And I don't know if I would go down the road of like depopulation, all those claims. I think it was profit chasing with something that may or may not work. It was definitely a non-tested thing, or untested, or very low tested thing. You don't just roll out a vaccine overnight. It's got to be tested for years. And so what they did is they were chasing profits. And for that, Pfizer, I think, had record profits.
Yeah, even if the vaccine, though, wasn't about depopulation, I think the virus definitely was. It's not like China didn't know what was going on. China knew what was going on. They released the bioweapon onto us, and the rest of the world, I think, at least from the virus's perspective, coming from China, I think that was intentionally designed to depopulate the world.
The Western world?
Well,
everyone.
It didn't really come from China, though. I mean, it originated here in 2015, North Carolina, Chapel Hill. It was Fauci and the gang working on that virus there and bringing it over because of the funding and all this. And, we've had this conversation, Jake. Is the depopulation... I don't know. I can't prove anything, but it sure as hell seems like it. And I saw someone recently post an article about up to maybe close to 1 billion people when you look at the virus itself, and then when you look at the vaccine, and then suicides and the infertility rates. I mean, they talk about depopulating this planet. It is a major thing for them, this whole climate change thing. Who knows? But it's definitely not foolish to at least... explore that question.
And we are in a population decline. We don't have the what's that rate called? The I was gonna say replenish rate. That's the wrong term.
It's what it is, something like that. But
yeah, I don't know why I'm
fertility.
More people
fertility
are dying than being born.
Right, because you got to be like 2.1, and we're like 1.7, 1.8 children per family. Mark, you and I are beating the trend, right?
Yeah,
that's the good thing. Is like when you get a bunch of us that are actually having a lot of kids and
liberty lovers.
Yeah,
too,
liberty lovers. We got a good future, right? Well, that's the thing is China has got a real problem with population decline because of their instituted one child policy for so long. So yeah, they would want to wreak havoc on the Western world and also regain superpower too.
And that might have been the big thing with the jab. I mean, we know that it's killing some people. I mean, we know that for sure, but it could be the fertility thing. We don't know what's going to happen to these male testes and female ovaries in the next decade.
Yes,
we have
and
no
also
idea.
the pregnant women that got the vaccine
Right.
too.
And they
you know,
never
I mean,
tested it on pregnant women.
Right.
They excluded them purposefully from the trials, but then just dished it out to them when it was time to experiment.
Yeah, and they said mix and match whichever whichever booster you want. You know, it was like there was no consistency in the science. There was no logic at all. And, you know, putting, you know, anything inside of a pregnant woman, that is, you know, dangerous medical territory. And I don't think medical professionals would have ever supported this without the propaganda of the COVID machine.
Better protection than natural immunity. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'm a terrible
That's
Fauci
one of the
impression.
lies.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
God.
one. And the biggest lie of them all, which Pfizer admitted to the European Parliament, that they never tested its ability to not spread. Right? That's what they literally admitted that, and that was a rollout. That they said, get it, you're saving other people's lives, and we all knew this. We all had the stigma, right? That if you don't get the vaccine, you're gonna harm grandma. No evidence to support that, but that's what those liars told us. you
Yeah.
know? Joe Biden and Tim Walz and Anthony Fauci and Donald Trump.
Yeah. Risk your children to protect
didn't
your
even
Oh,
animals.
no,
Like-
I didn't even catch that.
Oh
first, no.
God, I got
But
him. Oh, there.
Decaluche says
I
he's
mean,
still
we've
seeing
talked about it a million
I'm
times.
not.
you know, it's,
We'll leave.
it's just stupid.
We'll leave it up to William to beat you up on Trump stuff.
Yeah, I beat him up.
Warp speed. Warp speed, man.
Hey, well, he never mandated it. He never was going to force anybody to take it. It's
I
all
hope.
Joe Biden's show.
I hope,
I hope
yeah.
that's true because you're right.
Oh,
He gets out
man.
of office in 2021. That's when the mandates come. Either way, this is just how fraudulent politicians are. Kamala was asked if you're going to get the vaccine. Oh, I'm not taking the Trump vaccine.
Yeah.
And then, meanwhile, they're like, "Hey, you need to get the vaccine, and you'll get fired. 100 million, or no, was it? It was employers with over 100 employees. You got to fire people that don't get the vaccine. It's so insane to think that happened.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these assholes did this on their own, like Anderson Windows over by us
Yeah.
and Carhartt. Hopefully, they got retribution on that
Well,
one.
and it's still happening. It's still happening. If you're a new grad, well, you couldn't even graduate from nursing school without getting it. But if you want to get a job at a hospital, they're going to mandate it. Still, the pandemic's over. The evidence is out that it's dangerous. It's insane.
Okay, let's talk about the evidence. We're getting into it now. This is what was great about Aseem. He dropped a couple things here. I want you to look at a lot of this government figures, but in clip 4, he talks about the vaccines actually put more people in the hospital than the COVID infection.
Summer, towards the end of last year, second half of last year, the journal Vaccine, peer-reviewed, this is like the highest impact medical journal for vaccines, right? They published a reanalysis of Pfizer and Moderna's original double-blinded randomized control trials. So this is the highest quality level of evidence. Okay, with all the caveats, drug industry sponsored, all that stuff, right? But still what we call the highest quality level of evidence. Done by independent researchers. Joseph Freeman from Louisiana, he's an ER doctor, clinical data scientist. Associate editor of the BMJ, Peter Doshi. Robert Kaplan from Stanford, right? Some very eminence of integrity, right? I'm not for eminence-based medicine, but I'm for people who have eminence of integrity, right? They published this reanalysis. And what they found was this. In the trials that led to the approval by the regulators, we'll get onto regulators in a minute, around the world, you were more likely to suffer a serious adverse event from taking the vaccine, hospitalization, disability, life-changing event, than you were to be hospitalized with COVID. So what that means is it's highly likely this vaccine, mRNA vaccine, should never have been approved for a single human in the first place. And that rate of serious adverse events, Joe, is 1 in 800. And it's at least 1 in 800 because that just covers the first 2 months of the trial.
I mean, I didn't even think that was going to be the case at the get-go. My thought is not getting the vaccine initially because I never once even thought about getting the vaccine. Certainly not my wife and 100% not my children. But it was like, I even thought maybe there's some utility for this vaccine. It's still questionable if there was for older people with the Omicron and the original variant. But I didn't even think it was going to be that bad. Like, literally, it does nothing. You have a higher chance, meaning there's adverse effects which literally we could get banned on YouTube for even bringing up, which is why we jumped onto Rumble, because they're probably still instituting these policies, calling it misinformation. The Biden White House wants to take down groups like us. They took down a group that we had 50,000 people on Facebook because we were spreading information about this stuff. And here's a study that shows from Moderna and Pfizer that that's the case. It's actually more of an impact, and certainly you would think with younger people, if you get the jab.
Yeah, and I will, full disclosure, I was working in a COVID unit, at the front end when this jab came out, and I will say that probably at that time 6 to 7 out of the 10 people there were more, but about 60 to 70% that were in critical care, critically ill, were unjabbed. So initially, it was pretty apparent that the jab was doing a little something. I'll be the first to admit that. But I still knew at the time that the overall risk was much higher.
And by the way, you're probably seeing the high risk categories, old and obese.
Oh, they're
right?
mostly
and,
all
yes, and
over
underlying.
70, obese. But I admit at
which
first,
I think maybe there was an argument to be made that those people took the vaccine.
But I would still argue that your overall risk over the course of 6 months was that you're more likely to be injured or dead from the jab than you were to be saved by the jab.
And good health, improvement techniques.
And it's proven now.
Yes. You'll
proven
never
now.
forget they actually arrested a guy on a surfboard or on a wakeboard in the ocean, getting vitamin D, moving about, fresh air, and they arrest the guy during COVID lockdowns. Literally the best thing you could have done.
Yeah.
Right?
Crazy world.
What do we got here, Bridget?
So Dave Kalush says, I'm still seeing commercials for pregnant women to get the shot.
Do you? I'm shocked. I guess I'm not seeing
I've
these
seen
things.
a couple.
Are we watching those on TV or are
I
we
just
seeing
saw
those?
one not too long ago. I think it was like on a, one of those ads that run on Tubi or something. My kids might be watching a show and there's 30-second segment of ads. I've seen them.
Oh, so
Yeah, and I
it's-
know Biden's press secretary just did something where she was promoting the shot again. Just a reminder, everybody get your safe and effective booster.
Safe and effective. That's right. Just like
Yep.
just like transgender child genital mutilation. Safe and effective, right? Do you not see the lies by the media and the lying politicians at this point? Safe and effective. Safe and effective. Oh, guess what? We're going to put you on death row. It's safe and effective. I mean, my God.
Right, if
Get in
that-
the boxcar. It's safe and effective.
Yeah, if it's true, why do you need to keep saying it?
I know. Well, it's propaganda. That's how propaganda works. Keep repeating the lie over and over again and carefully crafted talking points that are easy to digest. Safe and effective.
Yeah.
It's so easy. How are you against safe and effective? I'm a safe and effective kind of person.
Yeah, the bigger the lie, the easier it is to pass. And what do they say? I don't know if Twain said it or what, but it's easier to, to get a lie to pass than it is to convince someone they've been lied to.
So what Dr. Aseem says is it's not safe. The evidence says it's not safe. You have a higher risk of going to the hospital if you get the jab than if you don't. And we all know it's not effective. Maybe. And I think you're
with
right.
The
I think you're right.
Wuhan, the original strain, I will say
For
that
high risk categories.
it did probably in the moment save a few lives or not. We don't even know. But I
For
think
those individuals, it
because
could
I was seeing people,
Right.
they'd come in, they'd be unvaxxed. More people were unvaccinated that were critically ill for a little while. But at the same time, I'm seeing 80-year-old woman in the hospital saying, I wish I would have never took that jab. Ever since I took it, GI bleeds, this thing and the other. So
God.
for every person that was, and that's another thing with these COVID
Right.
deaths, for every person that died of COVID, there were 10 people that died because they tested positive with COVID, but they were going to die anyway. So everything, and they knew this. They lied.
Yeah.
So how effective could the vaccine be? We actually got data from Great Britain, and Aseem brings us up. This is our last clip. Go ahead and play this, Dawson.
Only earlier this year, about 2 or 3 months ago, I think there's the first country in the world to publish such substantial data. They released
course.
information looking at per million people vaccinated versus per million people unvaccinated by age group, during the Omicron strain, right? So this is UK government data. So table 4, it says numbers needed to vaccinate for prevention of severe hospitalization, from 2 doses of Pfizer. So if you look at the first column, Joe, if you're 70, you have to vaccinate 2,500 people to prevent one person being hospitalized with severe COVID. If you're 60, 5,700, you start getting lower age groups, 30, 87,600, for example. If you're 20 to 29, well over 100,000 people. I mean, this efficacy level, effectiveness level is just, if it wasn't so serious, it would be laughable.
And this is just to prevent severe hospitalization.
Yes.
Again, it does not stop infection. It does not stop transmission.
Absolutely not.
And so,
I mean, that right there, it's not that effective.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about the highest risk class, 70 and above. You need 2,500 people just to stop, or just to basically
Stop a hospitalization.
Stop a hospitalization, right? And then it's not. And that's only one side of the ledger, right? What's the other side of the ledger? Do you think we'll ever even know the other side of the ledger? How many are going getting hospitalized or killed because of the vaccine?
They're hiding that data.
They so are.
If
Yeah.
you follow like Steve Kirsch's Substack, you'll see that you can't get, and he's a billionaire philanthropist trying to get to this data. They won't release it. They're trying to hide it the best they can. I mean, people are dying left and right, young people, and the media is just like medical emergency. Died unexpectedly, 14 years old. It's overwhelming, the amount of death. And I'm sure in the UK, I know it's 15 to 1,600 people per week are dying in excess since the rollout of the vaccines, and that is government data.
Do you think this is going to be short-lived, or do you think this is
No,
going to...
I think it's just starting. I think we're seeing an escalation in death now, and I think...
Wait, when you say that, what are you seeing?
Well, just
I know
the heart
you-
attacks, the strokes.
Yeah, I know you always talk about, like, you post these articles on your Facebook, and if you're not following Mark on Facebook, please do. Great. And Mark posts like, this person died suddenly, and you usually attribute it to, or at least
a lot of
allude
times
to-
you can do a social media search and see their frame, where it's like there's some of these that are like, they use vulgarities like get your effing shot, just like with the frame. But yeah, you can usually, a lot of times you can connect it. There are other places you can seek this information, but like even today, if you look at my Facebook feed, I have at least 12 people that have died unexpectedly, that were previously healthy, that were under 50. Some of these are 14-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids. And you and I growing up, how many people, I don't know one person that died unexpectedly when I was a kid.
It's such a rarity.
I don't know one. In Rice Lake, Wisconsin, 6 kids have died in their school. 2 of them were auto accidents. But I mean, the excess death is high.
So you're saying 4 kids,
at least
basically
4.
unexplained, or what?
Yeah, unexplained.
Rice Lake's not that big.
No, it's not. And the data's there. Again, read Ed Dowd's book, Cause Unknown, the life insurance data, the Society of Actuaries, plus some CDC data. Excess death is skyrocketing since the jabs were rolled out. So that tells you 2 things, or 3 things. It tells you that either the jab wasn't effective and they kept dying from COVID, or that the jab is deadly, or both.
Yeah, and we're never going to get to the bottom of it, because the corporate media, which is funded by pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, Moderna, are never going to get to the bottom of it. Why would you go research what your big daddy is giving you? Like that wouldn't make any sense for them. And then, of course, when do politicians ever get held accountable? When?
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much got to piss off the establishment before they throw you, like the Anthony Weiner types, before they throw you under the bus, because they're never to get held accountable.
Well, where's the line anymore? It's fascism. I mean, the line between corporate America and the government is vanished.
Well, I want to know what you guys think at home, because like this is a topic we haven't been talking about a lot lately, and I know a lot of our followers and fans, this is the topic that probably got you to find out about Mark and Meg and Jesse and myself and Bridget. This is what kind of ties us all together, was this vaccine hesitancy. So it's like this, and we were on the case right away when Governor Walz locked down Minnesota. We fought against this thing for a year and a half, trying to end Governor Walz's emergency powers. It's like it doesn't get talked about anymore, as if this thing doesn't even matter. Like, oh, well, they lied to us. They locked us in our homes. They usurped the Constitution. They had these new powers they gave themselves, and then they mandated vaccines, which could cause deaths. And you know what? We got new topics to talk about, new things. Why are you guys talking about that old business? And unfortunately, we fall prey to it, because eventually we have to talk about some of these new things, because there's no doubt the transgender woke culture is a real big threat, and they're coming after our guns, and what do we got on the show today? Minneapolis bailout, things like this stuff. These are important issues, but it's like the thing that's probably going to be the largest impact on our lives was COVID, right? Because we all saw something happen that we'll probably never see again. Fingers crossed on that one. That was cataclysmic. It changed the way we do business, right? So essentially, a lot of us work at home. I certainly did for like a year because there was nothing to do. Like you couldn't go operate in a business setting. People just weren't doing meetings. It led to mass migration, like Tennessee and Texas and Florida now have huge population growth. And it's reoriented our economy. I mean, my God, like my Ford truck, finding parts for my Ford truck was common vehicle on the like it's disrupted the supply chain. And what we all see heavily is what it's done to, like restaurants and fast food, like completely changed that industry.
Well, it was the largest wealth transfer in the history of the world
Right.
from the wealthy to the poor under liberal policies.
Yep.
Yep.
They did this. They did this, and it's all woven together. The transgender, the COVID, it's the four pillars of this woke communist movement. They're moving us to communism. It's religion, race, gender, and safety. Safety is the guns, is COVID, get your jab. But it's all woven together. It's Marxism and Mao. If you look at history, this is exactly what they did to move people to communism, and it's happening.
Yeah, I can't tell if it was done on purpose or if this was just convenient, but no doubt I sometimes lean that way.
Mind.
But without a doubt, they were learning what they can do to the people. I mean, at least in America, we didn't put people in camps, although they were designing that.
Yeah.
And that might be the next one. Bill Gates even thinks there's another pandemic coming.
Well, avian flu. They've already got a vaccine ready for that. And Marburg.
Well, I'm helping out with that with turkeys that we're shooting.
Yeah.
I helped the nephew get one too. So we'll
Depopulate
stop the
the
spread of
turkeys.
avian flu.
Yeah.
But seriously, what did they learn? They learned so much. They learned how many people would roll up the sleeve and be compliant. And then what does that mean about us, right? Do we have the big target on our back? I mean, look at the stuff that we take from our political enemies, and mostly on the right in Minnesota too, by the way. Like I was just looking on my Facebook feed, and it came up like May last year or May of 2020, just came up in the memory thing. And I was slamming Paul Gazelka, who's the Senate Republican majority leader at the time, because he was talking tough, like Walz needs to let go of his emergency powers. He never brought up a vote. It wasn't until June of that year, the first special session, he even moved a vote on the Senate floor to end Governor Walz's emergency powers.
But wasn't he the guy that was going to put the finger in the dike?
Yeah, right?
That's
Exactly.
what he said.
Exactly. So it's not just a Republican, and we all know you get like the DeSantis of the world who locked down people temporarily, because William's not here to defend his favorite guy, his favorite Cuban boy.
I think he's questioning it now.
Favorite Guantanamo. I like him, by the way. More so. What's the guy from Ohio? Why can't I think? Mike DeWine.
Yep.
Might as well just been a Democrat. That Republican governor locking down his state, shutting down businesses. It wasn't just a purely Democrat thing, but it was interesting to see the Democrats just fully tyrannical and anti health choices, freedom of health. I mean, just completely anti that. The resistance, the health freedom resistance came from the right, which is so bizarre. I'd argue it really didn't come from the right. It just was like the people that maybe found refuge, the principled libertarian wing of the Republicans, they found that refuge there, whereas that used to also exist on the Democrat side. It doesn't exist there anymore, like at all. Like, can we
Except
even think of an
RFK.
example?
RFK
Yeah, well, that's a
Jr.,
great
so-
point. RFK.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we.
Yeah, and even that Marianne Williamson, she's a total socialist, but she's anti-vaccine mandate. So there is some feelings on the left. They just stay quiet about it, or they've come over to our side.
It used to be totally from the left. The granola left was the ones in these homeschool co-ops and stuff who weren't getting their jabs.
Well, in fairness to Kamala, she was against the vaccine as well when it was Trump's
Yeah.
vaccine, right? These guys are such frauds. Go ahead,
We have
Bridget.
some comments here. K. Wall for Life gives another $10 and says, "Saw May the 4th be with you on a church sign today. Any
Yeah.
Star Wars fans on the show?"
May the 4th be with you as well. Yes,
right.
big time Star Wars fan. And it sucks to actually give anything to Disney nowadays. Like if there was a show to protest, it would be The Mandalorian because, getting rid of Gina Carano. But it's still pretty good entertainment. I haven't worked my way through the newest season. My 8-year-old loves it. I love it. It's really well done.
We got rid of it, man. My
I
kids
know.
want it back, but I'm like, I can't do it.
I'm like Jesse drinking Budweiser still. You know, I don't drink Budweiser. I'm just saying Jesse does, and it's just sometimes.
The last
we
time
have
I
to-
got beer, I got PBR. So you know what?
Atta
I'm
boy!
moving along.
Yes,
Nice.
PBR.
But you know
Keep
what?
it
I
home-based.
still like Budweiser better. You know, you can't take the Budweiser out of the man. You know, you can take the Budweiser from the man. You can't take it out of the man, though. You know.
Apparently you can. At least the Bud Light you can. No, I love Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is great. It's a great story. So yes, I still watch it, 100%.
We have a question from
Oh,
Bad
thanks
Hat
for
Harry.
the Rumble
yeah.
rant, by the way. K-Wall, was it?
Yeah, K-Wall for life.
Thank you.
Bad Hat Harry said, what was the patent length on the vaccines again? 75 or 99 years?
You know that, Mark?
I don't
Well,
know.
they wanted to hide the data for 75 years. I'm not sure the patent length, but that was so attorney Aaron Seary, who's actually going to be in Minnesota on September 10th. We're hosting an event, but he sued. It was the FDA that was trying to withhold that data for Pfizer. 75 years they wanted to hide their trial data, which turns out the trial was completely fraudulent. Unblinding people, no informed consent. It was all a fraud. But 75 years they wanted to keep that hidden. But now they're only once a month they have to give some of the documents.
Well, and more importantly, you also couldn't be held liable, right? So the vaccine manufacturers couldn't be held liable. So all these deaths, which really don't get reported through any traditional channels other than VAERS, which what attributes to the spike in VAERS data, that's a big question. But there's no retribution here.
Yeah, the PrEP Act, which was actually put in place right after 9/11, and then they've modified it to a certain degree. But the PrEP Act, they're not, they get an indemnity for the hospital protocols that, have killed people, and the jab. And
Well, I'd say that data is about as hard to come across as the Nashville Shooters Manifesto. So we probably will never see it. Or whatever we see will be fake.
Right. And yeah,
But-
the thing is too that the mainstream propaganda establishment, what they say about us is that we're the reason for these deaths. They say that if everybody just would get vaccinated, then this whole thing would be over. But that's not true. I mean, even the first booster, maybe these additional boosters, I don't know, but even the first booster had nothing to do with the Delta variant, which means that the Delta variant is fully able to spread and everything else. So it goes to show that they weren't even honest in the fact that even if it was 100% vaccinated, it still wouldn't have solved a single thing. And if anything, it just would have caused more problems for some of these people. I'm seeing all kinds of vaccine injured people and, some famous people like Jimmy Dore. And I have seen some people being compensated for it, but there's a lot of claims in the VAERS system, like you're saying, that, that the government just doesn't want to touch because it doesn't fit their narrative.
What else we got, Bridget?
So back to when you guys were talking about if Walls knows about or if Walls got the vaccine. Roxy 1956 said, disagree. Walls is a tool. I think she meant to say is a tool. His body language tells it all. Pursed lips and always looking down. Remember what Jesse Ventura said? Right after he was elected, the feds came in and told him what to do.
I forgot about that.
well,
comment.
Ventura was pushing this jab too, so that's a whole nother subject. But
Well,
yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah,
you
I
But
know.
think
Ventura did say he was anti-mandate, but not as clearly as he should have during the entire thing. He said it kind of after the fact. Well, yeah, I guess people should make their own choices, but it wasn't a strong enough statement.
yeah, and when you endorse Tim Walz, all your credibility's gone.
Yeah.
I do seem to recall something about either the Democrat Governors Association or some channel where they were pushing out what to do during the lockdowns, and that's where the nursing put the COVID patients in the nursing home came from. That's why it was common where Walz and Whitmer and Gavin Newsom, and then what was that numbnuts in New York, Cuomo?
Yeah,
Cuomo's the only
I
one
think
that
there
got
were
really
Republican states that did the same thing too.
Probably,
though.
yeah.
Like I kind of remember something about Kristi Noem being a part of that.
Well,
I can't confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that I remember Kristi Noem was also kind of involved in the same thing. So that's why conservatives kind of distanced themselves from her after that.
Yeah,
Well, I
it's
know
like-
they distanced her from the trans thing, the athletics.
It's like you said earlier, even the so-called conservative legislators really didn't stand up for us. Very few.
Right.
Very few
Very few.
did at all. I mean, so you can't count on legislators to do jack for us. Maybe the judicial system, maybe. But legislators, no.
Well,
Right.
and it's like you guys don't have the right to do any of this stuff. There's a constitution. We are a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. What all these Democrats say. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. There's a very important difference. You don't get to just do whatever you want because the majority says so. There is a document that you're restrained by. And I love that meme that came out right early in the pandemic, and it was the infamous photo of Constitutional Hall. They're about to sign the Constitution, and they go, wait, none of this matters if there's a little virus going around, right? It's like, yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Give up your freedom for a little safety.
Right, and that's what it's always about, some kind of emergency. When you look up the word dictator in the dictionary, it says someone who takes absolute power in a times of an emergency. They know it. It's always an emergency. Rome, Great Britain, it doesn't matter. Any big, large empire, they've always acquired more power during an emergency. The Patriot Act in the United States in 2001, because there's an emergency. I am actually just against emergencies. These declarations of emergencies are always screwing us.
Yeah.
And we're going to get ready for a really big emergency now that someone's trying to kill the Kremlin, kill Putin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
World War
stupid.
III.
So stupid. It's like it's only going to stoke the flames and make things worse. They need peace talks.
Mark, if we did a show, maybe if people want to Rumble rant, this would be we raise, let's say, like $500 in Rumble rants. We'll do the show, and it's just Mark Bishofsky and me unhinged about World War III and the banking collapsing, the Great Depression that's coming up.
Yeah.
We could do like 5 hours.
Warfare. I mean, yeah.
Riffing on that, and then why you need a prep at home. By the way, if you're not a prepper, what is wrong with you?
Uh-oh.
What is wrong with you? Yes, Dawson. And Dawson,
Get
there's
to
something wrong with you.
prepping.
I give you a perfectly good turkey breast, and it's still in the fridge 2 days later.
Ooh.
Luckily, I put it in my vacuum sealer, which every prepper should have. Nice vacuum sealer. I got a chamber vacuum sealer. Very good. Good. Much better and easier to use.
Maybe we need to have a prepper show.
We should do a prepper
We should
show.
just, like,
Mark,
one
that
out.
would be a great show for you
Yeah,
and me.
that
What do you guys
would.
think? Should Mark and I do a prepper show? We talk. Have you ever seen the Canadian Prepper? It's a great channel.
Not
Great.
seen that one.
It's on YouTube. Maybe he's over in Rumble. Oh, it's so good. But after a while, you get used to it. It's like World War III on the class, and he does these great thumbnails. And it's like the sky's always falling, and then he goes into prepping. But he's smart. He knows what he's doing. There's some really good prepper shows out there. All right.
Trump 151 added to your guys' comment, emergencies that they create. So
Yes.
Yeah.
And, maybe there's a legitimate one they didn't create. There's some kind of war or some act that we didn't, Now I'm going down the Jesse lane. 9/11 had nothing to do with us.
I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there's
not
gonna
go
there's
there
gonna be
today.
emergencies,
Yeah.
but they're gonna use any of those emergencies to establish martial law, to vaccine policies, whatever else they can do to get away with. And luckily, I mean, Mark, we don't think about this, but what we did, you having these massive rallies at the Capitol and Action for Liberty with all the people that were involved, organizing and pressuring politicians, essentially they realized they couldn't get away with it. And that's why I think it really died down in the 2022 election, which is unfortunate because then Walz didn't get held accountable.
Yeah.
Or Allison, who was literally threatening businesses for not following the COVID vaccine or the COVID lockdown. So
People are fickle. They forget. People really
Right.
They honestly, unless you're actually paying attention to what's going on and keeping tabs of it all, people just forget that. It was Walz that did that. People just go, I thought it was Joe Biden. People aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
There is a solution to this. Before we go to the solution, Liz Collins giveaway. Make sure you look at the link. We'll go ahead and post that link in there again. We're
Okay.
giving away Liz Collins' signed book to people who follow us on Rumble. So just follow that link right there, and They're Lying. It's a great book. I actually listened to the audio version, 5.5 hours during turkey hunting season. So I had a lot of car time to and fro camp. So highly recommend. We'll have Liz on the show on Tuesday. So there is a solution to all this. If we end up in another emergency situation, we just bring the UN in. That's all we got to do. The United Nations just come right here into Minnesota like they did here this last week. This is an article written by William. Pull this up. The UN comes to Minneapolis. You can go to actionforliberty.com. Action4liberty.com. You can read the story. The United Nations anti-racism team they come to save the day. I mean, my God. Of course we need these guys here. The United Nations sent an anti-racism coalition team to North Minneapolis on Tuesday to investigate cases of racism and bias in the state. The city was picked for the UN's research because it was ground zero for the George Floyd riots in 2020. The goal of this research is to create new recommendations for how to handle the perceived issues of racism worldwide. Knowing the globalists who run the United Nations, this report will likely recommend far-left legislation that advances reparations for slavery. Scroll down there a little bit, Dawson. This is an image from CBS of this panel coming here, or these investigators. Courtney Ross, George Floyd's girlfriend, was present at the event to give testimony. She told CBS News that she hopes the United Nations, quote, can press the United States to make big changes, end quote. Yes, that's all we need, guys. Whatever emergency we have, racism, COVID, bank failures, we just need the United Nations to come in here and tell us how to run our country.
Oh, it's all woke bullshit. It's so irritating. This whole thing. There's not that many people. There are some racists. There are definitely a few in this country. But
In the
very,
Democrat
very,
Party.
very few. It's just they've blown this way out of proportion. It's just unfortunate.
If that wasn't already concerning enough, at least we'll who cares the United Nations coming here? We got the greatest military ever, right? Wrong. As Trump would say, wrong. Look at this story here. U.S. Navy uses drag queen in desperate attempt to recruit. Another story by the young straight-laced William Beck. Straight-laced William Beck. I always give Mr. Straight-laced the stories on the drag queens and the transgenders and the pedophiles. No, you wrote the pedophile one, didn't you, Jesse? Okay. It's fun. Jesse gives a different flavor to the story. Military recruitment levels have fallen to an all-time low. Last month, the Navy told a congressional panel that they will fall 16% short of the recruitment goal. In a desperate attempt to recruit, the United States Navy has turned to drag queens. Makes sense, right? Why wouldn't you? I had a guy write this morning. He wrote, looks like the Navy hasn't changed in 40 years. Now, I'm an Army veteran. I'm going to insult all our Navy fan base. No, okay, I'm not going to say what he said. All right.
Yeah, but could you imagine, like, you're obviously a veteran, but, like, if you were in the Navy, a Navy veteran watching this ad and just, like, if you're someone who fought for your country and, did a standout job, and then all of a sudden you're seeing that this is what the United States is now, this is what they're pushing, and, that's not the type of strength that we want. I've seen those ads where, they show how the U.S., is pushing their commercials for the military. Then you compare it to a badass Russian commercial, We're trying to get drag queens. They're trying to get killers, That's the difference.
Well, the Navy still has one of the most elite groups, the Navy SEALs, but my God, What are you doing to the rest of the ranks? I'll leave the jokes of sailors aside here. Yeoman Second Class Joshua Kelly is a digital ambassador for the United States Navy. Kelly, who goes by the stage name Harpy Daniels, what a clever name. Why don't you pull that photo back up of Harpy Daniels? Has performed drag shows for Navy seamen on a variety of occasions, according to the New York Post. Kelly has 60,000 followers on TikTok and over 1.3 million likes. That's right. The military is hoping to recruit rugged and disciplined individuals for the future of warfare by making a drag queen for the face of their recruitment program. Now, I'm ripping on the Navy. I was Army. That's what you do. Yeah,
Dylan Mulvaney is the one who's doing the Army ad, just to let you know.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Gosh.
You asshole.
I wouldn't be
can't believe
surprised,
you did that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He had all you guys going, too.
It's coming.
Well, William made sure to equalize things. William, for a brief point, was in the Chair Force ROTC. Oh, no, now I'm offending all the Air Force veterans watching our show. I love all you guys, by the way. I love all my fellow veterans. They get the ribbing. Chair Force, the Navy, Marines, everyone's got respect for the Marines. Once a Marine, always a Marine. But I come from the Army. So William took a shot here, and it's true, and it's fair, and I remember seeing this, and I was very upset. This is not the first time that the United States military has pandered to the woke left. In 2021, the Army released a TV ad featuring a lesbian marriage ceremony. That same year, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, sounded alarm on so-called white rage.
Yeah, I think that was the video that I was talking about that I saw compared to the Russian ads. It just goes to show that, other countries look at those videos and they just lose it laughing. They see how weak we are, how pathetic we are. And, it's obviously that, they're just trying to promote a specific agenda. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it has no place here. The job of the military is to close within and destroy the enemy, right? To protect the borders, defend the homeland. And to go institute democracies all across the country or the world. Not that last part. Sorry, not that last part. You dang neocons and your global quest to create an empire. What a stupid approach to foreign affairs that we just institute democracies all over the world.
Jake,
And
if
I was
you
a
were in
part of that,
charge,
by the way.
How would you deploy a group of drag queens? What type of mission do you think that a group of drag queens could do?
Well, it'd be a psyops campaign here.
Yeah.
We bring it in. It would work very well if we were ever to invade Bangkok.
Yeah.
In some parts of Afghanistan, might work very, very well. We also could add a couple goats into that one.
Yep.
The stories, by the way, of some of those Taliban people. Oh boy.
I've actually got a story that relates to what Jesse said. I used to study up on the Mossad a lot, which is CIA foreign intelligence, but over in Israel.
How did you know that, Deep State Dawson?
I wanted to study up before. So okay.
And was those studies in Langley there or what?
Well, Mossad, they did 9/11, right?
Okay. You don't need to answer that question.
That one. But anyway, so I wanted to be in the CIA before college, so I read up.
He wanted to be in the CIA.
Yeah, that's right.
Deep
Instead,
State
I'm-
Dawson. All right, sorry
instead
for
I'm stuck
interrupting you,
here.
Deep State Dawson.
Yeah, no problem.
Maybe he is CIA.
Ooh, that's what we wonder.
But one time the Mossad had a giant mission where they had to assassinate some Taliban leaders. I think it was 3 Taliban leaders, and so they had 3 Mossad agents, all men, dress up as women and convince these Taliban leaders to get into a taxi with them, and then murdered them all like right there inside the thing. And it was so badass.
Yeah. Right.
So, in other words, it could be deployed. I could see some very, really
But
valid use.
it's even more insult to injury because, like, if they would have just fooled them with women, they'd still feel like, oh my God, how'd that happen? But, to have dudes pretending to be women to do that, I'm sure they had to be beside themselves.
Mark, you remember when we were young and dressing up like a woman was a funny thing, and like it was just used for comical reasons. And then the drag shows were like in those places you never go into.
Yeah.
That's our
I
next
never
report.
went to
We're going to
one,
send William
but-
on location to some of these events. Mr. Straight Laced. Just kidding. We're not going to do that. William couldn't be here today, so I can.
Well, we
make fun of
should.
him.
Like I said, we should do on the street interviews. Maybe go to some drag shows, and you get some amazing.
Well, you had me on the street stuff, but the drag shows.
Why not? Get
Mark,
some amazing-
reporting live from drag, whatever.
Should I put on a dress and
Yeah.
shave my
Marquette
whiskers and-
Bishofsky.
Oh, Marquette Bishofsky, there you go.
Marcy?
Marcy? Marcy's better. What do you guys think? Marcy Bishofsky, should we
It's
see
not
it?
happening.
Oh, my God, your wife's just like, are you kidding me? This is so insane.
She's probably watching, too. How you doing, Lori?
Yeah, Lori.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Lori. Looks like he'll be making the cookies from now on. We had a box that was go for like $100 some bucks, 200. I
Yeah.
can't remember. It was like
Some good
some
stuff.
good cookies. All right, what do we got here, Bridget?
Tucker says Double Agent Dawson.
Double Agent Dawson. I like it. Deep State Double Agent. Look at that haircut too. What a stud he is. Wow. Yep. We went square on the back, huh? They always ask me square around. I'm like, I don't care. I don't have to look at my back.
And then Bad Hat Harry says, don't forget about the Space Force. I don't know, what do they do?
Well, defend us from space. Space threats, I think, is their mission. I actually thought it would be kind of cool to get back in the military and the Space Force. I got to admit, I think it's pretty interesting. I'm very interested in space. Venus, it was beautiful in the sky last night, in case you guys didn't see that.
I
Very
saw a
bright.
picture, yeah.
Awesome. And I do think that a cataclysmic event can happen. Certainly has happened in the history of the world from like a meteor hitting the Earth. So it's worthwhile. I don't know if their mission goes beyond that. If they got a secret compartment. Dawson, do you know? Do they have a secret compartment with the Space Force? No comment?
Well, wouldn't the Space
Yes.
Force also be involved with like missile defense too, potentially? Because they can,
Yeah. Yeah,
Lori
definitely.
just commented. She said, please, no drag.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. The Space Force thing, though, I think it's awesome because, I think it's really just China, Russia, India, and the United States that have a presence in space. And so, considering that those are the 4 options, I definitely want the United States there. And, China's doing all kinds of things in space, throwing these satellites up there. We need to be constantly tracking them, and we need to have a presence beyond us because, like Elon Musk thinks, maybe people have to eventually go to Mars. I don't know, but people should be allowed to, do what they want, and we have to have a presence in space.
Yeah. I thought about going the AI route here. Okay, I'm going to do this transition here because this is so. My theory is aliens could be some civilization that once existed that shot AI up into space because we wouldn't last long in space, right? As carbon-based life forms, and so maybe they've now come back, and that's what we assume are these UFOs, things, right? Just a theory. Not saying I'm totally bought into it. But I don't know what the hell the Pentagon's showing and all this new evidence on UFO. I don't know what to think about that stuff. But there is the possibility because we've already shot AI to some degree, the rover and Mars, into outer space. So do we have some kind of like silicon-based life that operates like some kind of being, some kind of creature that we've already shot up in space? Don't know. But that, anyhow, I thought of that because it'd be a great segue into what you wanted to talk about, this AI ad. Because AI is like growing exponentially, like by the day. So what do we got here? We got an ad that was created by AI to respond to Biden.
That's right. And also, I know that one of the founders of AI who worked with Google has now quit his job, and he's warning people of the dangers to come. And so what I understand of what the Republicans
look at Mark's
put out,
face right now. Look at that. He is just like, This is the show topic, Jake and I, 5 hours. We raise $500 in Rumble Rants. We'll bring this show. It'll be World War III. It'll be the Great Depression with bank failures, AI taking over, Terminator style, and how to prep for it. There you go. We have to raise. We've only raised $10 in Rumble Rants, so another $490 in Rumble Rants, and we'll do this show for you. All right, sorry for interrupting.
But yeah, so obviously we all saw what Joe Biden had put out, that stupid "finish the job" ad. His newest campaign ad.
He's for freedom. Didn't you see the ad?
Yeah, freedom and
freedom.
Get the job done or finish the job. It's like he hasn't done a good job. So to think that people would want to rehire him to continue and finish the job. He's out of his mind, but Republicans apparently wanted to have a response video ready to go immediately after the Biden announcement video. So, yeah, Dawson, if you want to pull up that link and we can watch it, because what they did was they used AI-generated images of Biden and Kamala and then all of these. I'm sure what they had to do was lay out the text of what they want to be said, maybe the music, but the images themselves are, completely generated through artificial intelligence.
It's like graphic, not like pulling them off the internet.
Right.
These are.
This just in.
Ooh, that's loud.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know why Twitter always cranks the volume.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Elon.
Now call the 2024 presidential race for Joe Biden. This morning, an emboldened China invades Taiwan. Financial markets are in free fall as 500 regional banks have shuttered their doors. Border agents were overrun.
Sounds like our show, Mark.
Yeah.
Illegals yesterday evening. Officials closed the city of San Francisco this morning, citing the escalating crime and fentanyl crisis. Who's in charge here? It feels like the train is coming off the tracks. This just in.
So, I mean, that wouldn't be hard to do, but I'm guessing those aren't actual images. So that's what you're saying is computer-generated images. Like that's a victory. I think it does say, it says 2024 there, Joe 2024. So that actually didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at an image that's not true. Not that you couldn't Photoshop it, but if AI could do it, why not, right? Well, they actually make Biden look younger.
When you watch this type of ad, it's not something that you could immediately assume is AI. It's not something that immediately caught me off guard and made me question it. No, it wasn't until I saw reporting after the fact that people were saying, no, this was artificial intelligence that the RNC used. And to me, we're walking into some deep, bad waters with this because all of a sudden the Democrats are going to be doing the exact same thing. We're going to see them putting out these ads of Trump saying the craziest, most ridiculous things that he didn't say. And it just freaks me out a little bit. We should be able to know truth from fiction. And I'm obviously for free speech, though. People should be able to create and manipulate videos and do what they want with them. But to me, it's a little bit scary for a major political party, the Republicans, to be utilizing this technology. And it wasn't the most spectacular ad in the world. I agree with what it was saying, but it wasn't the most spectacular ad in the world. It wasn't. I just don't know if this rollout of AI is a good idea. Obviously, they want to, what really is going on, the technocracy. I'll get my conspiracy hat on here for a second. The technocracy, really what they want to do is they want to push transhumanism. They want to make it so that AI and humans are coming together. They want to make humans robotic. They want us to lose our free will, and they want to make us completely determinist slaves that do whatever, the globalist population wants us to do. So these globalist leaders, I say hell no. I'm never going to merge with the AI. I'm never going to be a transhumanist. And that's why I'm against this AI ad. It's like, let's not lean into that. I'm against it.
Everyone's like, screw Jake and Mark's show. I just want Jesse for 5 hours. What were you going to say, Dawson?
I've actually got a little bit of insight on this. If you don't know whether or not an image is AI, there's two big things that you can look for. You can look for repeated patterns in hands specifically. In this video, there were a couple spots where, like, the hands separating his face, so this one and this one, very, very similar. That's usually a pretty good signifier of something being AI generated.
That is interesting that they're in, like, the same general shape, but what's the rationale, like, technically behind that?
Well, a computer is going to use one picture of a hand more so than it's going to go
I
in
see.
front.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And then you can also see that in this shot here. These it's not hands specifically, but every single one of these ladies having their arms crossed in this exact pose. This hand is crossing over the exact same.
Yeah,
as
and there
this
would be no real logic behind that, would there?
No, it doesn't make very much sense.
Not like
And
they're at a
also,
funeral.
the last thing that I want to point out is that an image like this, I don't know why in the world any videographer or photographer would blur it so much. So they're blurring it in post in order to make it harder to tell that it's AI.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
Like.
Well, I mean, that's just not Biden either, right? That's pretty obvious.
Right. So, I mean, when it comes to AI art, be smart about it.
I mean, it's so clearly not Biden when you look at it, but you're not noticing these things. Very interesting. I'm glad you were schooled in Langley there, Deep State Double Agent Dawson. That was very cunning. That was on the fly, too. Not even prepared.
Yeah.
AI art is becoming a really big deal in, like, the kind of stuff that I deal in, because if AI art gets too good, then what am I supposed to do? So I'm better than it.
Well, did you see that? Someone put out a full Rogan episode that was AI.
I have seen that.
So it won't be long, and you'll just be able to push a button.
Yeah,
they don't even need me.
One with Rogan and Trump. I watched that. It's like, this is weird, that the technology is there, and you can tell it's not fully there yet, but it's coming, it's coming in the next few years.
Is Tucker even a fan of the show, or is that AI? I mean, he's always commenting. Does this guy actually even exist? Might not even be. Is the Patriot Carlin Nelson, not Senator Carlin Nelson, really just a bot?
Yeah, right.
We don't know. We got to get to the bottom of this story. All right, let me go to news story here. Oh, I got to do an update on Maddie Kingsbury. A lot of people have been asking about it. I am very sorry we did this episode 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday. Maddie Kingsbury gone missing. We had Carmel and Tim Eichhoff in studio. They're aunt and uncle to Maddie, who went missing in Winona. And this is, I think I've got this right, March 30th. I think it was the last day of March 29th, 30th. Went missing. 2 little children were in daycare during the day. She was supposed to work. Never reported in. And then not seen at the pickup. The boyfriend or the baby daddy ended up having to take the kids that night. A lot of people suspect there's some foul play there. Won't get into it, but he's the last person to actually see Maddie. She just disappeared basically from best we could tell after 8:15 in Winona. That day it was rainy, snowy, typical March, April, Minnesota. 30 some degrees, no coat left with, don't even think the shoes she would have wore, purse, and cell phone. So it just seems like she just went missing without her own, not on her own devices, right? Because why would you leave without the coat? Why would you leave without the wallet and the what 26-year-old girl doesn't leave with a cell phone, right? The police, and we brought the story to you. We want to bring more attention to this thing. The reason I haven't talked more about it is there really isn't much to update you on. We don't know where Maddie went, and it's so sad for the family. I keep in contact with Carmel all the time, trying to learn more about it. But pull up the Facebook page. There is a candlelight vigil. Now, this doesn't mean she's dead. You can only make whatever assumption you want here. But they want to memorialize at least her with some bit of hope. it's over a month now. You know, and that's during basically break season, so flooding and all that kind of stuff. And they've searched areas from Winona down to the Iowa border. I was actually part of the search back in early April, checking some really interesting areas. We don't know, but this is a candlelight vigil at Veterans Memorial Park on so that's tomorrow, so Friday the 5th at 7:30 p.m. If there's inclement weather, I think there's a backup location. I'm trying to read from the screen. I shouldn't read from the screen here. Let me pull it up on my end if I can. Does this? Are you looking at the story, Bridget?
It's kind of fuzzy on mine. I can't see.
In the event of inclement weather, the venue will change to First Congregational Church.
First Congregational Church. Okay, so there you go. So, and you could just look this up. It's called Shining a Light for Madeline. Her name's Madeline Kingsbury. And the reason we wanted to do this on our show, because obviously we're talking politics all the time, but we have a lot of followers down in the southern Minnesota area. Like, we're talking about, like, going from Winona, Houston, La Crescent. The reason I was joining, because I was down visiting my parents. I came from La Crosse area, on Alaska in particular. And so I was down for Easter. I was like, I got no plans on Saturday, so I went over and joined the search. So, William's back in studio. There he is. Look at that sharp-looking guy. You want to come on set? Well, wait. I guess we got a camera in there too. I don't know where we put you. Well, if you want to wire him with a mic here, Dawson, we could put a mic on him. So anyhow, yeah, an area all the way down to the Iowa border. What's the Rushford? Is it Rushford? I think is the town, kind of in the hill country. It's gorgeous country. You could check that Facebook page and other things. They'll do a lot of updates on like where the private party searches are. Basically, the police, the only stuff they have, it's just very limited search areas at this point. So they're not doing huge mass searches. As soon as we have some really new, interesting info that might help to, find her, we're going to bring it to you first thing, right? It's just the problem is we just don't have much more to go on. I know a couple things a little bit behind the scene, but there's nothing I can tell you that would help. So once again, go back. I think it's episode, 35 or 36? I can look this up real quick. I think it was on April. Let's see, April 3rd. No, April. Where did I do this? Why am I having so much trouble finding it? 20, not the 20th, the 13th, not that. Probably 11th. There we go. April 11th, Tuesday, April 11th. It's The Truth Hurts number 34, Searching for Maddie Kingsbury. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go back to that episode. We lay out everything we possibly can about the story. We show you the search area. Certainly, if you know people in that area, buildings that might be on properties that don't get a lot of attention, that'd be some of the key search areas. So that's episode number 34 in The Truth Hurts. You look it up on Rumble to learn more about that story. It's just a sad story.
God, can you even imagine those kids? How old are her kids?
One was a 2-year-old, and I think the other's 4 or 6.
Gosh,
I'm forgetting the age.
It's so horrible. It made me think of the Lacey Peterson thing. For how many months in California. And it's like, they're obviously focusing on, I watched that episode and they're looking at the father. I mean, that's the first person you think of, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's troublesome to start pointing fingers
right,
at this
it's
point,
like,
but he's got to be the one with the most information, the last one that saw her. So,
and they're usually the guilty.
Well, and you also look at what the police are searching. They're focusing on the area down where his family's from. So, I mean, it's like, we're not telling you something you can't just think yourself.
I just came in. There aren't any new updates, are there?
No new updates. We wanted to show people the Candlelight Vigil, at least bring it up, because we just don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Last story we got for you is, and we talked about this last week, how Minneapolis, there's some emails revealed, Pentagon emails from a FOIA request with Star Tribune, showing just the utter failure of Tim Walz and Jacob Fry during the burning of the 3rd Precinct and those riots, and how they could have had the National Guard on the ground to stop this stuff from happening. Once they burned down 3rd Precinct, we watched the AutoZone, we watched the Target, everything else go up. It was chaos. It was utter chaos. I'm not saying we could have stopped everything, because there was thugs. But we could have stopped a lot. This falls square on the face or the lap of Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, and Tim Walz, who were going like this to each other. And then what you wrote in your article, Tim Walz then endorses Jacob Fry for re-election. Let's pull up the article, the bailout number 2 of Minneapolis. Tell us about this story, Jesse.
Right. So, right now when everyone's sitting there wondering when are we going to get our surplus money back, what are the politicians doing? They're looking for ways to spend it on, crime-ridden Minneapolis and bail them out as if, it's the responsibility of Minnesotans to fix the, destruction of Tim Walz and Jacob Fry. So, obviously we all know that everything started with the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd stuff where Tim Walz was refusing to deploy the National Guard. And, I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm not sure if you guys think that Jacob Fry was actually trying to convince Tim Walz to bring out the National Guard, but that's what Jacob Fry started to say. He said, I was trying to get the governor to do this, and then Tim Walz came back at him, and, that's where Tim Walz had said, I think the mayor said that I request the National Guard. Whew, that's great. We're going to have massively trained troops. No, you're going to have 19-year-olds who are cooks. So that's where Tim Walz had, said that the National Guard are just 19-year-olds that are cooks. So obviously Tim Walz doesn't have any respect for the National Guard and the members of it. But, despite all of that, like you said, Tim Walz, it's one big party, and Tim Walz got behind Jacob Fry. And Jacob Fry, total radical, since they have the same goal of destroying Minnesota and all of the destruction we've seen and the burning of the 3rd Precinct, Tim Walz could have, gotten the National Guard there before the 3rd Precinct building fell, and he didn't. And so, so right now, what is the legislature looking to do? They're just going to give them even more money and waste our surplus dollars.
$100 million, it looks like, right? And this comes from the Promise Act?
Right, so the Promise Act, that was the original bill. That's what they want to call it, the Promise Act. And of course, what do politicians do? They take these bills, they stuff it into some omnibus bill that they hope that no one ends up reading. This bill that it's in now, 174 pages. How many Minnesotans are reading those 174 pages? Almost nobody, because not even the politicians read it. The Democrats just vote for whatever they're told to, and a lot of the Republicans do the exact same thing too. So if you want to check out that bill for yourself, the omnibus bill, it is the Omnibus Economic Development Bill, Senate File 3035. So people can find that for themselves. But yeah, it was the Promise Act that was the initial language, and then they just stuff it into this omnibus bill, hoping that nobody finds out, but luckily we're on top of it. And Jacob Fry, just this morning, he held a State of the City address, and obviously, he's just leaning into all of his progressive stuff and all the socialism, so it was no good to watch, and it's just proof that, I'm not sure if the Twin Cities can be saved. It's going to, we talk about New York, we talk about Chicago, we talk about these major cities, and, it's going to take someone who will straighten them out and, get the police working together, and, there's so much that needs to be done to save the cities, but, it makes me wonder, can the Twin Cities be saved? Not with Jacob Fry.
Go to actionforliberty.com. You can read more on that story. We also posted on, we haven't posted on Twitter.
I just got here.
Yeah. I did post that. We were doing the show on there, so I still can figure out the link and everything. So, William, I don't know where we catch you up on the stories. The World War III discussion, the
is it official?
Great Depression. Yeah, I don't know. Is it official? It's pretty much official at this point.
Will the history books say it's official at this
I don't
point?
know. Who knows when they're going to credit it to. But, this just goes to show that these politicians, they don't care about us. They're lying crooks. They'll screw us up. They'll screw up a city. They'll let chaos ensue. And then, as we said from the get-go, with COVID, they won't ever be held accountable. They'll go into our pocketbooks, take more of our money. And I guess we should mention they're trying to raise your taxes too. And it's not just the wealthy billionaires. Oh, I should have brought this on the show. I just saw a clip. Young Americans for Liberty tweeted this. It's Bernie. Who's Bernie talking to? Was it a late night show host or something like that? basically, no, it was Chris Wallace on CNN. And he's saying that no one making over $1 billion should be taxed basically all their wealth. No one should have more than $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking at this like, does this guy realize that they don't just have billions in cash?
Mm-hmm.
So is he like arguing?
Yeah, it's in assets.
Yeah, is he like arguing Elon Musk should give up Twitter to the government? Like, what is this guy arguing?
He's smarter than that. He's just regurgitating talking points.
Yeah, but
There's
what's
no
his,
way
like,
he's that dumb.
what does he think should happen? That he should liquidate Twitter then?
Well, and Bernie's been saying this stuff for like 60 years, ever since he was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, you know. So he's been saying this stuff for a long time. I think he's just got a mind that's on repeat by now, you know. He's, you know, almost, I mean, Bernie's probably about 80 years old. He, you know, he's just very ideological, and it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, because what, is he going to change his mind after, you know, 80 years of believing in socialism? I don't think so. So he's just regurgitating the same talking points that he's been saying his entire life.
Right. I don't remember why I got on the Bernie comment.
You were running through a list of the show topics.
Yes, I was gonna say is they never will hold themselves accountable. Just like in COVID, they're gonna make you pay, and they're trying to raise their taxes. That's why I was on it. It's like I knew I had a point. They're trying to raise their taxes. So we've learned now that the Democrats, which they're not agreeing at all, like the word on the street is these guys are very far apart, even though they've got the full government. They want to do a 0.25% raise in metro sales tax. So if you live in the 7-county metro, they want to tax your Amazon deliveries, your Grubhub, whatever Eats, Uber Eats. They want to tax your Target online purchases, 75 cents per delivery. That's what they want to tax you on. They want to keep the Social Security tax in place. What else? They wanted an investment tax.
They want a new tier of income tax, but actually, I don't think that was in the Senate version of the tax bill. So the 5th income tax tier may end up not actually passing. So there is that.
I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you can answer. But the left, I saw an article on, I don't know, Care 11 or something, but they spin it as it's a big tax cut.
Oh, yeah.
So there must be some cuts for someone, right? So that they can.
Oh yeah,
say
no,
this.
it's like it's a combination of tax cuts and tax increases, you know. And there was all these crony little pushes that they were trying to do, you know, the most backwards way in the world of trying to get rid of Social Security tax, you know, just by increasing taxes on everybody else. Then
smart.
And you know, and actually what they were trying to do was, you know, give the government even more tax money. Their proposal would have given more tax money to the government than the Social Security tax money. So they're just looking to grow. So yeah, it's funny that the liberal media is posing it that way, because when people when people are filing their taxes, they're going to know that's a lie.
So wait, is this a net increase or is it a net decrease?
Well, we don't know yet because we don't know what the final bill is going to be. But and I don't know if you've seen a fiscal note on this yet.
I haven't seen a fiscal note.
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
So I'm going to imagine it's going to be. So that's an interesting question. You have to remember we have a $21 billion budget surplus. So that should all come back to us, right? So if it's a net decrease because of one-time payments, is it really? It's really not, right?
Yeah.
They're definitely not doing any long-term tax cuts.
Right.
If they're doing it, they're doing some crony giveaways or refundable tax credits to their base.
Yeah.
The only reason it would be scored a net negative is just because they're giving us back the money we already owe. And I think, do I have this right? The final proposal looks like is they're going to give us back $250 an individual and $500 a couple.
What the hell?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. They haven't obviously fully settled the bill yet, and that's what is going on now. But yeah, it's pathetic. You know, they want to just give people crumbs of their own money.
All right, let's finish the show out with some comments here. Let's hear from these guys.
So we have Kathy on Rumble said, I'm pretty sure the shot was why my mother-in-law got cancer and lasted 3 months. And my sister-in-law has tremors, but she won't say it's related to the shot, but it started right after she got it.
What do you think, Mark? You tracked this better than anyone else I know.
There were warnings very early on by world-renowned doctors saying that this shot will turn off your total cell receptors, which guard against cancer. There were many warnings that this is going to make cancer skyrocket, and we are seeing it right now. And there's this new thing called turbo cancer. There was an article, 16-year-old boy goes into the hospital, dead 6 hours later from leukemia. That's turbo cancer. And I've seen many incidents like that. So yes, cancer's on the rise, and we might just be seeing the very beginnings of the side effects.
From Harvard University, dramatic rise in cancer in people under 50.
And that's an older article.
Yeah, it's
But
September
there's
8th, 2022.
There's a doctor out of the UK, an oncologist, saying his practice is just blowing up with cancer.
Yeah, I've heard that anecdotally, and
And
yeah,
I'm
I
trying
guess
to
that'd be
hard
interesting.
time finding real hard facts,
I
except
know.
for a couple doctors.
Once
but
again, it's the lying corporate media. They don't want to present this stuff. It should be the number one thing. It should be very important. You've been lied to. They told you the wrong thing, and now there's adverse effects. And oh, by the way, you can't sue the manufacturers of the vaccine.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to hear that, Kathy. It just sucks, and it just seems like you know, we might not ever know on these things, right? But you just kind of go. Sometimes it's that motherly instinct, you know. I guess she said her niece, maybe it was a sister niece. Okay, so you know, you got that instinct that something's off, right? Maybe Kathy is a mother, so she's got that instinct. Or did I misgender her? I don't know. She could be a guy. Just kidding.
highly doubt it.
She could be AI. Apparently, she could be AI. Why do we even bother with the comment sections anymore?
Yeah, that's true. Not Kathy. I was going to say, I don't see the comment here anymore, but Carla Nelson, the Patriot, asked Jesse if he had to do laundry because he's not wearing anything patriotic.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know.
Nothing patriotic. What are you talking
Well,
about?
besides
I
his
got
hat,
the
like his shirt. I think she did say
Yeah.
shirt.
No, that's funny. I don't know. I just didn't have my Trump stuff ready to go. But speaking of Carla Nelson, Senator Carla Nelson is angry with this guy right here because I just can't seem to shut up about the fact that she missed the vote for the transgender children, genital mutilation bill. I just keep calling her out on Facebook. Hey, Carla, explain yourself, you know? She doesn't want to explain herself, and now she's untagging herself from all of my posts. I am now blocked from Senator Carla Nelson's Facebook page.
Oh, lawsuit
is-
time. No, that's illegal. You
Yeah,
can't do
maybe,
that.
but you know, she could say, oh, he was harassing me.
Well,
no,
you
I
blocked
wasn't.
her,
I
you
was
just can't tag her. Which one is it?
No, it's both. I can't even find her page anymore.
Oh yeah, she can't do that.
but she does have another page, Carla Nelson MN. So you know, I'm tagging that one now. So,
But if it's her center page, she can't stop you.
that's
from,
what I thought too. But you know,
Oh, Lee Finke just rolled. I'm sorry, Chris Finke just said this today on Twitter that he's going to. I was close. I almost did a William there. I almost said she. He is going to actually block people on Twitter, and he's like, I know that you're not supposed to do it, but I'm just doing it.
He's blocking replies so that you can't reply to his tweets
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, that's that's the version on Twitter. Let me look this up here.
No, you can block people and then you can turn off your replies.
Yeah. The replies just means that you can't reply to
Lee
someone's
Finkley, I'm
tweets then.
disabling all replies on my account for a while. It is clear Twitter, and at Elon Musk. Oh, she's going to get
He
He's not being protected.
have
from
no desire to
free
protect us
speech.
from
Yeah.
harmful, persistent abuse, lies, and harassment. I reject the idea that being in office means being forced to accept such behavior. Stay safe. Fight.
Yeah, this guy's just looking for attention. You look at
I
his
know.
posts, and
Yeah.
they're literally just attention seeking. But then when he gets bombarded, if you look at his feed,
Yeah.
it's like literally 99 out of 100 of them.
yeah, he's
like,
getting
joke.
ratioed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that just means we have to quote tweet him now instead. That's
Yeah.
the new reply.
All right, so you don't think what he's doing is wrong? Like it's not like the,
Whoa. I never said it's not wrong.
Well, but I mean illegal because I think Carla Nelson can't actually block you. I don't think that's
Well, blocking is different than turning off your replies.
Yes, I know. I'm saying it's not the equivalent. You're saying.
Right.
All right.
Because you can actually block people on Twitter, and that's what sparked that Supreme Court case with Trump and other people who were blocking people.
Well, there you go. Well, luckily we don't need to worry about that with the Patriot Carla Nelson.
Yep.
What else we got, Bridget?
Okay, Wall for Life says Fauci lied, people died, repeal the PrEP Act, and end the madness.
Yep.
And Bad Hat Harry had a comment earlier. It says Lifetime Fitness CEO sent a mass email with figures stating COVID wasn't passed through gyms, then capitulated and closed all the gyms.
Yeah, I remember that story. God, it's so funny when you start remembering these stories from back in the day. It's like there's just too much. And I thought about doing it as a depository of like all the things, and it just I don't know if I did or just forgot about it. But there's just so many stories that were really important at the time, and then it just got whitewashed from history. And of course, the media is not doing anything to bring it up. But yeah, I remember that happening, and yeah, they shut down gyms. That was their thing. Shut down gyms in Minnesota.
The Lifetime guy is from Minnesota, right?
Well, they're headquartered here. I think he's from
Okay.
Minnesota.
I thought so.
Yeah. But you wouldn't know that. You go to Planet Fitness.
Yeah, there's so much.
I used to have a Lifetime membership. I'm probably getting one this summer too.
It's so expensive.
Just to one up.
The Woodbury one?
Probably. Yeah.
That's where I used to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got sick of paying $90 to go to the weight room.
Yeah.
because it's like they did have tanning beds in there one time, and it's child care, and it's just like I go to the weight room, maybe I warm up on the elliptical. What am I doing? Spending all this money. So didn't
You don't
make
like
sense
the
for me.
sauna or the pool
Sauna's
or
nice.
anything like that? Yeah, sauna's fun. Steam room.
I don't know. If I'm in the mood to eat apricot seeds, I might go into the sauna too and do a cold plunge while I'm at it, Mark. But I don't know.
You ought to.
I'm old school. I go to practice every morning. I go to the gym. There's this voice in my head that goes, "You better go, Jake. Go lift some heavy things." That's it. There's no hunk alarm in my gym. I just love that you guys go to Planet Fitness.
It's cheap.
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair. Can't hate a guy for going the cheap route.
Mm-hmm.
Los Campeones for the win.
What is that? Is that your place?
Yep.
That's the name of your gym? Sounds like a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
No, not quite. It's
Almost.
it's just the champions in Spanish.
Right, but that's why do they call it a Spanish name? Is it like a boxing gym or something?
They have boxing stuff there.
Sounds like
I
a big
don't
place.
I don't use it though. Oh, it's killer. It's super fun.
Hmm.
They're
Have to
opening
check
up a
it
new
out.
location that's $100 a month to have access to.
Where is it? Where's the new location?
The new location is in St. Paul. I can't remember
Oh,
exactly.
so that might be
where.
Mm-hmm.
closer to me. Well, do you have guest passes?
I think so.
Dude.
Check it out.
Dude.
Well,
Good.
we've learned so much here at the end of this show. Why don't you guys take this offline?
No, I'm just saying, like, it sounds like a cool place.
It is.
If you're
Well-
inclined to invite me, I suppose I'd go.
Oh, that was a very desperate attempt to get invited to his gym there. I'm actually one here that's worked out with Dawson. When we were in Vegas at the National Associated Broadcasters show, we went to the gym together. And I got to admit, for a guy that had only been lifting for a week and a half, his form was really good. So it was, yes. And somehow, as he's trying to put on mass, he ends up losing 20 pounds. So he's doing something wrong. He's eating protein all the time, and he still loses 20 pounds.
And I won't shut up about it.
No, I gave you crap because okay, I'll say the story and then we'll sign off. The first night in Vegas, that's all you could talk about was your diet. And I had made a comment, very gender insensitive comment, about how you talk about your diet like you're a person of the opposite gender, right? Because I was kind of getting sick at this point as we were about to scarf down some juicy burgers from this burger joint that I got to hear about. Well, I don't want the bun because I am going strict protein. I was like, oh my God. Kid,
That
please.
isn't. No, when you take your diet out on other people, it's one thing to
There you
just
go.
like do it, but if you're like complaining about it while you do it,
No,
that's
no.
not fair.
Okay, I need to point out, I was never complaining. I was just like.
Were you trying to
"Man, I
shame
can't."
Jake? What were you
I was-
doing?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
you're
shaming
eating
Jake for
that?
eating bread. Yeah, for sure. No, I was just like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna fit 80 grams of protein in at one meal in a Vegas thing where a pound of wings is like $60 or whatever.
Yeah, that's the problem is I'm trying to enjoy dinner with him and Dale, and then all I can do is do the measurements in my head for him. I was like, geez.
When did I ask you to do a single
Oh,
measurement
just
for
by
me?
talking about grams, and all I could think about is, well, let me think here. Maybe I can help him out. Like, why am I doing the math for you? I'm not even eating my burger now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Instead, I
Dawson.
just downed like 3 shakes a day or something like that.
It's the easiest way to do it.
All right.
We have a couple questions if you
How
want me to
many-
read those.
How many apricot seeds would it take to get to the grams of protein you need?
0
take a
grams of
lot.
protein.
Poison
0
if you
grams of
died from
protein and an
cyanide.
apricot seed.
All right, go ahead. What are the comments?
Tucker wants to know if you have any thoughts on the Marine who choked out a belligerent black man on the New York City
Didn't
subway.
see it yet. Didn't see it. You want a live comment? We still got an audience, so go ahead. Let's pull up this live. I know Crowder was talking about it today.
We do have a live audience. We also have a recording in 20 minutes.
Well, that's Mark's recording. Do you have a Zoom?
Yeah, I got to interview.
You got a Zoom?
Okay.
We
Interview
can't do
at
it.
3.
Sorry. I was giving you a live comment on this, Tucker, but Mark's got a show.
So
So
I'll leave him hanging for next show.
Yeah, we'll leave you hanging. We'll give you our comment back to
Sounds good.
What other
Last question, Napkinator79 wants to know if anyone's going to the Trump rally on the 13th.
Yes. Bridget and
Maybe.
Jesse are going down there together,
I
right?
don't know if we're doing
Yeah,
that,
we
sure,
haven't
but-
confirmed it, but yeah,
I
I'm
want to
very
be fun.
open-minded.
We won't have the news truck ready by then, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wanted to send you guys down with a news truck. So yes, we'll be on the ground. We'll probably bring them live on the ground at the Trump rally. Well, wait, no, not live because it's Sunday, isn't it? Sunday the
Saturday,
13th.
I think.
Saturday the 13th.
Right?
I can't even remember.
I should know this. Mother's Day is the Sunday. It's a fishing opener too, by the way. So
Yeah, it's
it
a
seems
Saturday.
Sacrilegious
Okay,
to go down to
cool.
Iowa that day, but we will definitely have some people going down there. Great question. All right, last thing, sign up. Next Tuesday we got Liz Collins. She's giving away a signed copy. We'll announce the winner live on air. I'm making promises I don't know if I can keep. I don't know. We'll have to figure out how we do it live on air, William. We'll have to think on our feet.
Wasn't the winner going to be like a week after?
That was the Shields gift card. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to say who the winner is live on
Are
air.
you using the link that I made?
I don't know. Here's the thing. Yes, it's right there. William, it's right there.
Okay, scroll down because I say
Oh,
that.
you actually say on there?
Well, yeah. We got to give them an idea of when we're drawing.
Oh, yeah, I suppose we do. Tuesday, May. Okay.
I can change it if I feel that feels like cheating.
Sign
though,
up
after.
now. Just sign up now. That's it. Makes it real easy. Sign up now.
There you go.
Go to actionforliberty.com or in the link here, you can sign up for the Liz Collins book giveaway signed copy. Tune in on Tuesday. We'll have Liz Collins too to talk about that book and what happened during the riots and what happened to her at her house with John Thompson shouting profanities and having a piñata, her and her husband, Bob Kroll. It's going to be an interesting story. And check out Mark's Truth Expedition also on Rumble. Lots to talk about. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you.